Hello guys, welcome to AnySwift TV. Special Steven wants to help the enemy who tried to unalive him, but Jasper refuses and chose to be fully corrupted because of what Rose did to Pink Diamond. Peridot comes in clutch and backstabs her, then Amethyst goes over and bubbles Jasper. They head home and see that the rubies have returned from Neptune. Steven asks why they've returned and they ask for Jasper, then Amethyst transforms to pretend to be her. Ruby goes over and tries to take her back to Homeworld, but Amethyst says that she has to stay on Earth to keep the crystal gems as her prisoner, so Ruby decides to go to the moon base to report what she accomplished. They head inside the base and discuss what happened to Pink Diamond. They reveal that Earth was a part of Pink's colony until Rose started a rebellion and shattered her diamond. Steven denies that his mother smoked someone, but they continue up and realize that the control panel is broken. Then Amethyst convinces the rubies to go back to Homeworld without them and report that she captured the gems. They begin to leave, but Amethyst couldn't hold the form any longer. They realize that the gems tricked them again and fuse into a giant ruby. Quick thinking Steven opens the moon door and pushes them into the dark and cold vacuum of space, but they decide to take him with them. He floats in a bubble in the vast nothingness, accompanied by Red-Eye Ruby. She tells Steven that all she wanted to do is see the leader of the rebellion with her own eyes, but Steven reveals that Rose turned into him, but Ruby doesn't believe him. They float into an asteroid belt and turn into a ping pong ball. Ruby gets hit by one, so Steven saves her, then fixes their cracked gem. Ruby realizes that Steven is Rose and immediately tries to send him to Gem Heaven, but Steven is the landlord, so he evicts her into space to float for all eternity. The crystal gems find Steven in Ruby's ship and start to comfort him about what happened. He asks why his mom smoked Pink Diamond, and Garnet explains that because the Earth was Pink's planet, she had to disappear in order to win the war. Steven heads to sleep and gets a vision of a location. He tells Connie about it and she finds it in a book. Steven asks the gems about it, but they refuse to tell him, so he decides to find it himself. He goes to his father and asks for help, so Fat Wallet Greg flies them toward the location. As they get closer to the place, Steven begins crying. They reach a blue spaceship and see someone in a hood talking about Pink Diamond. The Blue Pearl hears them, so Greg decides to sacrifice himself to the mysterious woman who was revealed to be Blue Diamond, who's grieving for the loss of her younger sister. She decides to take Greg as a memento to Pink's planet. Steven tries to chase after her, but Garnet comes and stops him. She apologizes to Steven for not coming with them and tells him that they're going to get Greg back. Pearl tells them that Blue had a human zoo, and that's where she might be taking him. They take the Ruby ship, then activate the hyperdrive and speed off until they reach the zoo. The gems enter the gates, but they see securities guarding the entrance, so Garnet defuses and makes a plan to use Steven as a prisoner to get inside. They approach the guards and see the leader, who lets them in because Sapphire is high-ranked. She takes them to the door where Sapphire distracts her and leaves them to free Greg, but they can't get the door open. A guard comes and reports that Blue Diamond is on her way to the ship, then brings Steven to a tube where they change his clothes and release him into the zoo. He sees his father and they embrace each other. Greg tells them that the other humans here have it pretty good, as a voice tells them when to eat, bathe, and even sleep. At night, Steven explores with Greg and finds the door. The humans tells them that the door only opens when someone gets hurt, so Steven gives his father the hands, but no one comes to help. The voice suddenly calls them for a choosing ceremony. They head there and finds the voice telling people who to couple with. The voice chooses Greg with someone, but he tells them that they should be able to pick anyone they want to be with. The humans all choose Greg, but he rejects them and they all begin to cry. He runs away and hides as the guards come to calm the humans down. Seeing their chance, they run towards the door but get captured by a guard. They take them to Amethyst and see her having fun with her kind. The leader comes back and sends them all to greet Blue Diamond. Amethyst tells them to run while everyone is distracted, and they escape to a room with many bubbled gems. Blue Diamond comes in with Yellow Diamond behind her. She tells Blue to destroy all the bubbled rose quartz, but she refuses because they are the only thing left of Pink's creation. Yellow reminds her that one of the roses betrayed and shattered her, then begins to grieve for Pink when Ruby and Sapphire suddenly enters the room. She begins to freeze up, but after Ruby comforts her, she makes up a lie and is allowed to leave with Greg and Steven sneaking out with them. They solid snake behind the leader as she gets wet over the fact that 2 diamonds came to her zoo. She notices that humans escaped and prepares to fight. They turn back into Garnet and easily defeat her. She threatens to tell the diamonds, but Pearl points out that if she tells them she failed, she will be shattered. Then they escape back to Earth. Steven sits at home and begins to wonder for what reason Rose had him. Lion suddenly spits out a key, but Steven doesn't know what it's for. He goes to many locations that previously belonged to Rose, but finds nothing that the key can fit in. Lion takes him to the desert and carries Steven to Rose's old ship. He opens the door and finds that this is where she kept her trash, but Steven finds a tape that might hold his destiny. Lion takes him to his dad and he realizes that it's just a copy of his other tape. Steven asks his dad why he was made and he explains that he wasn't born with a reason, he was just born to be Steven. Hearing this, Steven accepts and embraces his father. Steven goes home and waits for a package with amethyst, but their mailman didn't arrive, so Steven heads into town to find him and realizes that many people seem to be missing from the city. He meets a little gem who asks Steven for my dad, but he says no, so she flies away. He goes to the crystal gems and reports to them, then they decide to split up to go look for the missing citizens. Connie and Steven search the forest where they encounter the lil gem again. Connie begins talking to the gem and she flies up and calls an abomination fused with all the missing people to her. It kidnaps her, causing Steven to attack, but Lil Blue knocks him out and leaves with all his friends. He runs home and tells the gems, but Connie sends him a picture of her location, so they head out to find her. Steven calls Connie's phone and finds it on the floor when the homeworld gems suddenly confronts the crystal gems. They ask Steven for my dad and he realizes that the people they're kidnapping are from the report Peridot sent when they first met. They threaten to start unaliving the captives, so he steps up and claims to be my dad. They take Steven then head into the ship where he decides to free everyone. The giant attacks him, but he blocks the blows with his shield. The gem takes up Lars' girlfriend, but he chooses life and runs away before she frees herself. They open the door and see the gem's fusion holding the ship. Everyone begins jumping into the water, but they get frozen by Lil Blue. Steven tells her that he is Rose. The gems begin to protest, but he decides to leave and save everyone. They reveal that Lars is still on the ship, but Steven says that this wasn't a part of the deal, but what is he gonna do about it? Lars blames Steven for this happening to him, but he remembers that he used his girlfriend as a meat shield so he could get away. The engine suddenly malfunctions, so the fusion goes over to fix it. Steven makes a plan to grab one of the destabilizers with Lars' pants. He tries to do it, but he's too scared to try and fight back. Steven reveals that he's scared as well because he doesn't know what's going to happen to him. Lars says we're all in this together, and they decide to work together to make it off the ship. The fusions begins to cry and reveals that she admires their courage and decides to help them, but Lil Blue comes in and realizes what she tried to do and breaks the ship. The giant grabs the destabilizer and pins her to the wall, but Lil Blue tells her that if she betrays the diamond she will be shattered, then the fusion submits to her command. They carry Steven and Lars onto Homeworld, then separate them into different rooms. Steven sits in his chamber and waits for his punishment when a gem suddenly walks in and tells him that he's his lawyer. She begins telling Steven what to not say in his case of shattering a diamond, then they head to the trial. The diamonds arrive with Yellow wanting to shatter Steven because he's ugly, but Blue wants to have a trial so she can make him suffer. The diamond's lawyer starts off by calling Lars to the trial and says that Rose turned on her own kind and shatter her creator to protect the physically challenged low IQ humans. She then calls an eyewitness to the stand who tells the court that war criminal Steven is really race traitor Rose who threw her into space to suffer. Steven's lawyer starts to fumble the bag, so he just admits to being guilty of shattering Pink Diamond and accepts all punishments if they release Lars. Blue asks how he did it, then Steven makes up a story that gets some details wrong and causing Blue to feel pain. They call a recess and the lawyer realizes that they want Steven to explain because it doesn't make sense that Rose could shatter Pink. She goes back to court and Steven's lawyer begins by asking how Rose could even shatter Pink Diamond. She brings in Blue Diamond's ship, then points out that there is no way that the leader of the rebellion could bypass all her guards and get close enough to assassinate Pink with not even her Pearl noticing the threat. She goes on to speculate that the only way Rose could have possibly get close enough to shatter Pink is if a diamond betrayed her. Yellow get enraged and poofs the lawyers on the spot while Steven takes the chance to escape with Lars to fly away. They crash the craft in the slums and begin to do the race. A Robocop comes by and begins scanning things, so they run as fast as they can. Lars decides that he's tired of being scared when a voice suddenly calls them into a hole where they find many special gems living inside a cave system. Lars gets scared by their unique features, but Steven is used to seeing ugly, so he just asks why they are hidden in the cave. They tell Steven that they're all defective gems, so if the robot finds them they will be shattered. The robot follows them down the hole and begins to search for everyone. It's about to scan one of the gems, but Lars steps up and distracts the droid, but when he gets scanned nothing happens because he has no gem. One of the Robocops scans another gem, but Lars manages to save her. He begins to hold them back and protect everyone single-handedly, but one of them explodes and sends him into a rock. Steven goes over to Lars and realizes he had a warrior's death. He cries over him and raises him from the grave, but he's now pink with a cool scar. Steven hugs him and apologizes for allowing Lars to become a hashtag. Lars begins freaking out that he just got brought back, but there's no time to wait as the special gems have to block the entrance so the robots can't come inside. Steven realizes that he's like Lion and touches his hair and sees that it's a portal. He goes inside Lars' hair and finds that it connects to Lion's, so he walks through and goes back to Earth. He finds the place abandoned, so he just grabs some food then heads back to Lars. He heads back and tries to pull Lars through the portal, but he can't suck himself. He tells everyone to just leave him and go back home, but they refuse to because they owe him for saving their lives. Lars tells Steven that he has to go back and forces him home to the gems. He sees Pearl panicking and goes for a group hug. Like the video if you liked the video, subscribe for more. Thanks for watching and remember to stay swifty.